Henley, cheers to you, and a quick toast to everyone else, aye? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm drinking the last of my Santa Teresa 1796. That would be a hint for any of my crew that might be watching. Welcome aboard, everybody. It's time for another episode of Captain's Quarters Podcast. And before I forget, I'm going to say this many times tonight. We are doing a very special episode tomorrow night, Tuesday. We don't normally do Tuesday night episodes, but tomorrow night we're going to do a Tuesday night episode, and we'll tell you more about it when we get closer to telling you more about it. For now, though, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to acknowledge a couple of things, like how can you keep up with us? Well, there you go. Subscribe and like to our YouTube channel, Captain's Quarters Podcast. We'd love to have you be a part of our show, and you can be a part of our show by, ladies and gentlemen, subscribing and liking. Then you'll get notified about our different episodes as they come upon. And we're trying out some new things, ladies and gentlemen. So go to the show, go to the channel, Captain's Quarters Podcast, and come on board with the rest of us crew. That's always a good one. We also like to do a couple of other things. I've found that I have to start wearing specs a lot more often, so here we go. Here's something new we want to do, and it's proper maybe to do this at the beginning of our every show. So we're going to call this segment Paying Respects of the Week. Aye, Paying Respects of the Week. And ladies and gentlemen, that picture was snapped quite a few years ago, and I've always liked that picture. The fog in the background. It actually was a 5K run for Palencia Elementary School, the Palencia Pirates, several years ago, and I've always liked that picture. So that picture may serve us as a good logo for this segment, Paying Our Respects for the Week. And here we're doing two directions tonight. One, to each and everybody in the entire United States. 9/11 was tough on everybody in many, many ways, many, many levels. And all those that were affected by 9/11, why, you have our respect. Those of you, especially with families and loved ones that were lost in 9/11, you have our utmost respect. And even though it was yesterday and a day of respect and celebration, we wanted to make sure the Captain's Quarters Podcast did just that. So ladies and gentlemen, those of you that were affected by 9/11, we salute you. The next one, ladies and gentlemen, is to all of our British friends. Queen Elizabeth has passed, an era has happened, and ladies and gentlemen, England moves into a new era. But to all of our British friends, our best and utmost condolences for the loss of your queen, a wonderful woman, a wonderful queen, and a wonderful example of what community service and loyalty really is. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great sorrow that she passes, but here's hoping that everything moves us away and in the right direction as history will allow. So, to the royal family, to the people of England, to any of our friends here in St. Augustine, our condolences and our respect. Aye. On that note, Davey, do you have a good quote of the week?
Ooh, I do.
In matters of style, swim with the current. In matters of principle, stand like a rock. Well, now, I like that very much. I do believe I tried to follow that and will continue on. Very good. Good quote, Mr. Davey. Very good quote. And tonight, our question of the week has nothing to do with history. Nothing to do with entertainment. Although I guess it could have something to do with entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, our question of the week. Football just started up this past weekend. So I'm asking you, pro or college, which do you prefer to pay most of your attention to? Pro football or college football? I will tell you my choice. If and when I do watch football, college is my preferred. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a big pro sports fan of anything anymore. It just has gone the wayside for me. But we're just curious to see, since football started and we're moving into the season. And of course, the other reason I put this up there is because, doggone it, now we got to put up with Monday Night Football as our competitor for Monday night's Captain's Quarters Podcast. So prove to me that college is yours and pro means nothing, and we'll see you here on every Monday night for Captain's Quarters Podcast. Aye. Cheers to all. Aye. On that note, we always like to talk about the adventures of the crew, and the cast of the Captain's Quarters Podcast. So, let's talk about what's on the horizon there for the crew in Crew Adventures. Ladies and gentlemen, we have quite a few things going on, and we want to share it with you a little bit here and there. Ancient City Con is this week coming up in the World Golf Village. Yours truly is a guest celebrity for the event, and we're going to be setting up the Captain's Quarters Podcast booth and doing some taping, some recordings with some of the celebrities and some of the guests of Captain's Quarters Podcast. Augie's Draft was this past Friday. It was a mild success, we'll put it that way, and we'll leave it at that. October 7th, 8th, and 9th, Pirates of the High Seas, that festival in Panama City Beach, Florida. There'll be about a dozen of us driving over to be a part of it and to participate as active gamers and exhibitors for this event. October 28, 29, and 30, our Spooktacular. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had our crew Spooktacular in the captain's backyard for the last 4 or 5 years. It's time to up the game, and we're now putting it in the Colonial Quarter in downtown St. Augustine on St. George Street.
Huzzah!
Aye. Come on down on the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th. We'll start doing more details on it, but I will tell you this. We have earned just about enough sponsorship to cover everything, which means that all ticket money will be going to our charities. We'll tell you more about that. It's $10 for adults and $5 for children, but if you bring a can of food, human food, dog food, cat food, we will give you $1 off per can of food, and I believe we'll put up a limit on that. I don't want people bringing down nine cans of cat food because they think they can get $9 off their $10 ticket. Let's be reasonable, ladies and gentlemen. We need to be considering all our charities. So be watching that. We are printing up the postcards this week, and if you bring a postcard in with a can of food, you'll get a discount on your ticket. Also, November 12th, Pirates on the Edge, Edgewater, Florida. We helped them with their very first event last year, and we're back again for helping them with their second event this year. So come on down for a one-day event, November 12th, Edgewater, Florida. Be watching for that because they moved their location to a bigger park in Edgewater. December 3rd, ladies and gentlemen, December 3rd, the Ancient City Sirens will be visiting with Santa Claus at the St. Augustine Beach Tree Illumination. And they're asking for people to bring toys, that they can collect toys for the toy drive. And then the Sirens are doing their December 16th holiday gala. We'll be giving more information on that as it gets closer too. Tickets go on sale very soon, ASAP. Of course, January 2023 is the Old City Pirate Fest, and it's on, ladies and gentlemen. Friday night will be a concert and party. Saturday all day will be the family event with tents and vendors and all kinds of fun things. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Saturday night will be a completely different concert and party that will probably include a dinner. And you're hearing it from me first, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing. That Friday night party, I have secured Firewater Tent Revival for our Friday night. I've just been told that our volume is low. Is that true?
I can hear you, Captain, but the listeners say that your volume is low.
What can we do to fix that? I don't have any control of my volume, do I?
Yes.
Let's see if I can do something with it. Does that help? Did that change things?
Mason, you were the one that said it also sounded low to you. He sounds fine to me, but...
Yeah, it sounds a little low to me.
Own computers there, mates, and maybe that'll help a little bit.
Well, I hear Davey at full volume, but I can barely hear anything.
Thank you very much, Scarlett, for the...
Hey,
get the mic closer. All right, some of you are just having problems with your own ears. Let's see if I can do this and see what happens. All right. Does that help? We'll continue on now. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more thing we want to show you on our current things happening, which would be the next slide that we made for Davey. We posted this on Facebook this week, ladies and gentlemen, just to show you how busy this crew really is. September, Ancient City Con, Talk Like a Pirate Day podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, that is next Monday. And we are doing our podcast right here on Monday night, Talk Like a Pirate Day, and we've already made plans to link up with pirates and crews all across the United States that will sign in for a 10 to 15 minute hello, and we have a party going on. And Davey and I made sure of one other thing. Davey, in just a minute, we're going to show him that extra camera. But for now, pink up the pace. The Pirates of St. Augustine Swashbucklers always working with that. Panama City Beach Pirate Fest, the Colonial Quarter Spooktacular. Then in November, Pirates on the Edge. Then in December, St. Augustine Beach Illumination with Santa and the Girls of the Sirens. And of course, the Holiday Gala. And then January, Old City Pirate Fest. That is our post that we're putting out all over Facebook. You'll see that more over the next couple of days. And talking about next week on Talk Like a Pirate Day, it took about 2 hours of frustration, but we actually have 2 cameras hooked up in the podcast studio now, ladies and gentlemen. One that you get to look at lovely old me, and the other one, you get to see our Captain's Quarters Rogues Gallery. Now, it's not very well lit up right now. We didn't want you to be too surprised by it, but when we have our guest here next Monday night, that will be a party going on, and you'll be able to watch the gallery show and me. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? So there we have it. So now I think we've reached a point in time where, isn't it time for our guest?
Not yet, Captain.
No, what did we miss? Oh, yes.
After event, you had 2 things.
That's right. After events. Let's talk about the Captain's Quarters parlay that we had. You have some pictures from that, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the GM of Augie's Draft. We did an on-the-street taping of Captain's Quarters podcast this last Friday night. And we had quite a few people come and visit us. Plus, besides the tourists that were there, we shot over 2 hours, about 2.5 hours of taped video of us having a good time on St. George Street in front of Augie's Draft Room, where you can come down and pour your own drink, your own beer, that is, or a seltzer, or a wine. And that there is the GM. What else did we do? There is a couple little boys that came to visit us off the street. There's Mr. Longwood in the background. Wonder how he's taking those pictures if he's standing in the background. Interesting. Aye. There's my good friend Will from the Citygate Spirits. Many of you have been there and seen our pirate podcast and our rum tasting with the River Pirate there that one night, many, many moons ago. And when Will came over, he brought me a present. Ladies and gentlemen, many of you know that my favorite rum from City Gates is spiced orange rum. Now, they're only making it on the holiday times now, so they haven't made any, but he found this one in a display about a week or so ago, and he said he'd been hanging on to it till he saw me again, and he came over to say hello while we did our podcast and brought me a bottle of my favorite rum from them, Orange Spice Rum. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have opened it, and aye, that's a good rum. I love that rum. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a bottle now. That was wonderful that he brought it to me. What else did we have visiting for us there? That little boy, I actually have a picture of that boy. Did I send you the picture of that boy giving me the hug?
I think so.
Aye. And that little girl. Now, I'm going to tell you a little something about that little girl. We got her almost there, and just as we snapped the picture, she threw my hat to the street and ran away. It was so cute. But we coaxed her back and gave her some treasure. She was adorable. It was a lot of fun. So there's the general manager of Citygate Spirits, the GM. He was there when Will gave me that bottle of rum, and I had to brag about it for a little bit. That GM, and I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Davey, can you help me out there?
Sorry.
That's all right. It'll come to me in a minute. But he moved here just about a year ago, and his first experience with pirates was Captain Mayhem and all the pirates we took into City Gates with River Pirate Jason to do a rum tasting in City Gates that night. So he's been into pirates ever since. Him and I have had some long conversations, and he's now the general manager. And Will, the owner, wants me and this young man to start working out some other ideas. So we're planning on a Captain's Quarters podcast at Citygate Spirits. We just have to work the schedule out. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's see. That family was just
cute,
an
the
awful
twins.
lot of fun. What's that?
It was cute, the little twin babies.
Right, twin babies. I like babies, especially when they're not mine. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We had a good time on the streets, and there's our good friend Matt Frick, the curator of the Pirate and Treasure Museum. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He's my guest tomorrow night as we talk about our Tuesday night show, Superstition of the Nautical World. So he'll be coming in and sitting with me here in the chair and drinking some rum and having a good time and talking about superstitions. A good idea we've had. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what's on our past. Oh, and I just did one other thing.
You got another one.
Yep, I do have another one. Ladies and gentlemen, I joined Miss Gina and the Sirens. We all of us were there this afternoon at an assisted living home, and we entertained the guests and the living people there with some dancing and some magic. They got about an hour show. That was one of the granddaughters of somebody that was there. She was very shy, but she sure liked being held by a pirate. And the girls did a wonderful job. There's the ship of the Ancient City Sirens. That will be showing up in many more of our events. It's a fine ship and looks really well made and put together thanks to Mr. Special Ed there. And ladies and gentlemen, it was a fine day. And off over to the side there was a mermaid. Yep, there's a mermaid. So we had mermaids, dancers, magicians, and pirates, giving them a nice afternoon of entertainment, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. Ladies and gentlemen, entertaining those that would like to have a little extra entertainment in their life is always a joy, and I thank Miss Gina and the Sirens for inviting me to partake of that with them. Thank you very, very much. Now, Mr. David, can we go to our guest?
Yes, we
Ladies
can.
and gentlemen, our guest is, believe it or not, tuning in from Michigan. And there he is, Captain Timber Grey Wolf. Welcome aboard, mate. Good to see you. All right, cheers. It's a pleasure to have you
aboard.
here, sir.
All right.
Hi. And you are a pirate captain of a crew in Michigan.
Correct. The crew
And
of the Silver
crew's
Moon.
name is, tell everybody the crew's name so I don't get it wrong.
It's crew of the Silver Moon. Behind me, I have two of our flags. The smaller one is actually our original one that was hand painted, and that one is a vinyl printed one. About after one of our crew members have been a member for about 5 years, they have the right to own a flag. So we have a lot of them out hanging about. Definitely when we go to events, it's always nice when we go to our event and there's like 6 of our flags flying compared to maybe one of another.
Well, very cool. That's braggable rights. Very good braggable rights. Now, earlier in the green room before we started the show, I asked you, but I'll ask you again. How many do you have in your crew?
So we have about 15 people signed on to the crew over the years, but we have about 10 active members, both pirates and mermaids. We have performer mermaids who can do the full tail end swim. I'm guilty of also learning how to swim in a tail because one of the mermaids seen me how I swam underwater. It's like, I want you to put you in my tail. Okay, sure, why not? And there's a video out there, a couple videos of me swimming underwater, and it's really fun, actually. And as I joke, I drank the mermaid water by mistake, and it wasn't the rum, so I grew a tail.
Well, a good captain can step into anybody's position and help them out. You lead by example. That's always a good idea. So you have a good, strong crew of 50, 10 active. That's usually about the way it is. About 20% people will help out and be a part of it on a regular basis. Our crew has 56 members now, the crew of the St. Augustine Swashbucklers, but we have a few crew members that are in various locations around the state of Florida. So they can't always be there, they can't always be a part, but they do support in words and spirit always, and that's always important. It makes a good, strong crew to have many people, even if they can't be there for every event. That's a very important thing. So what are some of the things you guys do up there in Michigan, where it's cold most of the time, from my knowledge?
So like one of our first events that we do is hosted by our admiral. So to start off, for the Great Lakes area, we have the Brethren of the Great Lakes. Our admiral that is over Lake Huron, she hosts an event in March. So it's still cold, but it's called Shiver Me Timbers. Luckily, that's an indoor event. So we start off early in the season inside, and as it warms up, we venture out. A lot of us pirates, we double as reenactors. So with our historical garb, we go to a lot of the colonial events. So we find stuff to do all year round, right up till the New Year's, and we start again.
So do you have a lot of historical type reenactments going on in Michigan?
Yes, we have several small groups. A lot of them usually will say limited history. There's a handful of juried events. I have found out by mistake. I accidentally showed up to a Neapolitan event, which is about 50 years later than what I usually dress as. And the soldiers weren't too happy when they saw a pirate showing up to a Neapolitan event.
Yeah, we have lots of reenactors here in St. Augustine, obviously, the oldest city in the nation. And we try to put the word out to all the pirates here in this area that if you're going to go to one of the events, either dress it in normal, regular, everyday clothing, or try to be mindful of the fact that if you're a pirate of the golden age of piracy, you probably won't fit in anything else. I mean, some of the bigger reenactments here are Drake's Raid, 1586, Cyril's Raid, 1668, and of course Fort Mose, which I believe just happened not long ago. But all of that falls outside of the realm of the golden age of piracy. And it's all Spanish for the most part, Spanish-British. And so some pirates, they get the cold shoulder and then they get a little offended by it. But you don't step into somebody else's backyard unless you're prepared to participate in their festivities, not your festivities.
And I got really lucky when I went to this event. The people who hosted this event, it says, hey, we might have some soldiers who have extra clothing with them. If we don't want you to leave, because I had actually rode my motorcycle in about 40-degree weather to get to this event, and I drove about 2 hours. And like, we don't want you to leave. We'll find something. So, long as you are very well working with these people, they'll throw you some clothes because they don't want you to leave.
Right.
So I mean, I at least had that benefit.
So, what you've told me now is going to cause me to start looking at Michigan history now, because I'm so familiar with Florida history, colonial history up and down the coast, the Carolinas to Florida, that now I'm curious as to what specific things they might be doing in Michigan that would be reenactor
when they aren't doing like colonial reenactments, that'd be like taking place more on the New England states. They do a lot of mountain and frontiering. So that would push towards your later 1700s to your early 1800s, but you're still going to see a lot more buckskin outfits, and as I said, your mountain men and a lot of your fur trappers, because that's what Michigan's major marketing was when they first started founded, was fur trapping and logging.
Right. So your 17 and 1800s, which is colonial time frame. So very good. Well, see, that's one of the things I've enjoyed about trying to bring other people onto the show is that we're trying to open everybody's eyes and let them see that the center of all history, although St. Augustine being the oldest city in the nation, there are other points of history that are very interesting and that people ought to know all about them. So that's very good, and I hope that we can keep our ties between us, because working from Florida pirates to Michigan pirates, there's some really great advantages for that. We do have, and I know he's watching, I just saw his name pop up just a moment or two ago. In fact, he's the one that said, move my mic. So I've moved my mic, and hopefully that helped everything. But Captain Smoo is watching on board, I believe, and he's from Quebec, Canada. And he's I watched some of his, well, watched is the wrong word. He has a radio program on in the evenings, but everything, the music is all English because it comes from various pirate sea shanty groups, but everybody that was talking in the room was speaking in French. I understood very little that was being said, if any at all. Except once in a while, he made mention to my name, and I guess mayhem in French is mayhem. So it worked out very well for me. I was able to understand that. But I was flattered and honored because he did break into English and did a French-English translation and gave us quite a bit of credit for Captain's Quarters podcast. And we'll be having him on board the show here as soon as we can. And him and I, he's actually asked me to do something else at the holiday times for him and his work. So this is one of the things I like about the podcast. We're trying to make contact with pirates all over, like you. Virginia. We've made contact with people over in Washington State, now Quebec, Southern Florida, pirates all over Las Vegas. In fact, Mo from Las Vegas will be on our show in a couple of weeks. And it means that we can sit here and have conversations and share and find out that there's a whole lot of things that we can all do together in the same realms of pirating and having a good time. So,
oh yeah,
it's good to have you on board. I see a couple of people that have popped in and said something. Cheyenne Plate? My eyes, I don't have them in again. Is that somebody from your crew there, Mr. Grey Wolf?
Let me see where they. Oh yeah. Also, my father's popped in because I got a handful of my crew members in.
Douglas Harker. Very good. So we'll keep him on the straight and narrow with us Florida Pirates. But hopefully Douglas Harker is actually imbibing in a little rum with us too, right?
He prefers whiskey.
He does. Aye, get off our show. Aye. Well, there you go. Very good. Thank you there, Mr. Longhoy. So, Mr. Harker, I'm going to ask a question that you can answer if you want to type it out. Has he been a good, dutiful son? Although you say he's always been a pirate. Aye. Oh, and Melody Mellow Lily. I like that name. Very nice. You must be her captain, she says. Very good. Wolf be my captain. Well, it's nice to have you on board. We hope that many of your crew will continue listening to us on a regular basis from now on. That's the other advantage we try to do by bringing in other pirate crews, is to bring them all in so that we can have more and more people watching us on a regular basis. Because you never know what we're going to talk about, but it's most of the time always has something to do with history. So let's go back to your crew. You're in Michigan. I would expect that the weather is good for wearing lots of pirate clothes.
Yeah, so up in Michigan, we're right along the Indiana border, where I'm out of, but we have crews scattered along the coast of Lake Michigan, and we have one member on the far side that's based close to Detroit. But we have very seasonal clothes, so we have our wardrobe really spreads to, here's our fall and autumn and spring garb. Here's our summer garb that's very lightweight, very open, loose fitting as much as we can. And then in winter, we have the heavier stuff. We have the more linen, the wool. So you get a lot of heavier clothing, because the coat that I made that I dare not wear right now, I can wear in about 14-degree weather.
So now, earlier when we started putting all this together for tonight's show, we always have a 35, 45-minute conversation with our guests, ladies and gentlemen. And we were talking about sword fighting. So you're a sword fighter.
Correct.
You teach your crew to sword fight?
Yes, so I have had a long history of messing with swords. A lot of it started off as like kids, the parents kicking the kids out, hey, go play in the woods. So, hey, a stick isn't our sword. And my cousins would gang up on me. And I learned early off I was ambidextrous, and I could use, 2 swords to go against all my cousins. And fast forward, and I started teaching my crew. And the first thing I teach my crew is how to block. No matter how good you can swing a sword, if you can't hit that person or you can't be hit, you're not losing. So, and then we go to the sword safety, and I teach them a lot of difference between stage fighting and combat fighting. Because combat fighting, you're going to try to get in for those, like that in the box hit. Right. Stage fighting, I had to teach them it's kind of like hockey. You want to keep any of your strikes below the head, but then at the same time, that same box, you're aiming on the outside of it. And for a lot of the strikes, when people go to swing, and when you get really close, you turn your blade sideways, so that slap you hear, you're going to leave a bruise, but it's less than a chance of a cut, but the audience will hear that smack, and they think it's a lot worse than what it is.
Yeah, stage sword fighting is different because you're doing it for the entertainment value of the guests that are watching you. Combat fighting is at Renaissance festivals and whatever, you're doing it for the engagement of you and your opponent.
Yeah, definitely like the stage fight. Yeah, definitely the stage fighting because, like me and my brother-in-law, he's my weaponsmith and my helmsman, so he is basically my go-to guy. We will beat on each other the most out of everyone else, but we will have that limit. We know how fast to go, how hard to hit. We're not actually getting hurt, but we can put on a fun show, and we have signals to each other when the one person getting ready to get tired. We'll do a little movement. It's like, okay, this is the finisher move. And we don't choreograph any of our moves except for the finishing move because we put on a show when we do this finishing move.
So who do you use? Obviously, you know that you can't just use any swords when you're playing. You have to use combat-ready swords. Do you have somebody that you go to for most of your combat swords, or do you just allow your crew to figure it out and do it on their own?
Usually when we first start off, we got a lot of the cheaper stuff that was high carbon machetes because they had a nice D guard on them, so it helped protect the hands. And once we got them, we filed them down so they're rounded. And we've started testing on definitely early off when we first started, we found out if it says stainless steel on it, and this is to any of the viewers, do not use stainless steel for any type of combat. Right. It's going to chip, and it's going to fly. It'll throw sparks. It looks cool, but you'll likely get chunks thrown at you. Anything that says high carbon or treated metal is going to take that beating, and it's a little safer. But if you start with a real sword, and you're like, oh, and it's a really cheap one even, take a file to it. You don't want to make it flat because then the sides turn into edges. So we want to round that edge so when it does hit the other sword, it's going to bounce a little bit. And that's something we have to teach our group. And we also teach the group how to pull out of a strike. So a lot of times people will go and one person does something else, and it could turn into a headshot. And a headshot's no good for anyone. Right. So we've learned how you drop your sword really quick and you aim for their sword. So it looks like they meant to block it, even though they might have been tripping.
Well, very interesting. Very interesting. It's safety is the most important thing, not only with swords but with black powder. Do you do black powder also in your crew?
Unfortunately, no. We have a track record of blowing things up or use ourselves. So we
but that's the fun part. That's what pirates want to do.
Oh yeah. So before we venture into that, we want to. I'm in touch with someone who does black powder, and we want to start getting more hands-on training before we do anything and get the correct insurance for that. But that is a down-the-road process, and I'd rather put my safety in my crew well before playing with gunpowder. But they let me still play with the fire.
We're very mindful of safety with gunpowder here in Florida, especially in this area, because we have so many reenactors that also do gunpowder, and any of the people that do gunpowder here in this area have gone through some kind of certification course. And that's very, very important. So, thinking back on events and festivals, you do Ren festivals mostly up there, or do you have separate pirate and Ren festivals?
There are some more pirate-oriented events, and then there's Renaissance. A lot of our Renaissance fairs, as I've been here, like you've explained, a lot of these Ren fairs, they'll have one theme weekend. Well, like one Ren fair we just got out of about 2 weekends ago was the Michiana Ren Fair in South Bend, Indiana. And it's split up into realms. So you have your fantasy, your Renaissance, your Vikings, and then the pirates. And we set up a whole camp. And this is a camp we don't sword fight. We demos. We help out with the kids quest. We taught kids sea shanties, not the Whaleman. We did some actual classic ones, and we have fun doing this. We have a historical tent that I set up that I actually made myself from scratch, but
Well,
that's
we
the
may
big
have
one.
to try
This
to convince you to come down here in January, because we're bringing Old City Pirate Festival back after a 2-year absence. And it's always the last weekend of January. We're getting a lot of good comments about it, so we're excited about it. And as I said earlier in the show, we actually have already secured our Friday night band for the Friday night party. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good night. So, how long have you all been how long's your crew been in existence? Let's put it that way.
So, back in 2014, I had a friend who she went to the Ren fairs and said, "I want to go to a pirate festival. I heard there's pirate festivals." I'm like, "Okay, sure, why not?" So I found one that was about 2.5, almost 3 hours away, and so me, my now wife, and her, we went to this fair, and I'm like, I was hooked because as I was researching it and finding out, well, that's when I had painted the one small flag behind me. It's like, okay, if I'm showing up, I'm going to show up looking like a Goodwill pirate, because I had used clothes all made up, and I fell in love with this event. And we hit up one more event that was indoors in December, and it's like, okay, I want to do this. It's like, okay, what was that question? It's like, could you send me the list of sea shanties? Ones we did, because we had to keep it PG. So we did Stormy Weather. That's basically all the fish in the sea. We did Lever Johnny. It's been a minute. We actually printed off the Disney's Pirate's Life for me. We found out we can only give that to older children, because if you actually listen to those lyrics, you don't want to give them to little kids.
Very true. Yes,
And
very true.
one other song was I Want to Be a Privateer. It's a newer song. It was a remake of I don't want to. Dang, my brain's not thinking right now. I'm usually in bed by now. But there's a list of shanties.
So, give us. Do you have any really good, memorable? Now you know why the rum's always gone, because he's sleeping. Do you have a good, memorable moment or two that you would share with the crew, and let us know, like what makes it so you enjoy being a pirate, or why do you do this? Give us something that's memorable for you. Everybody has a reason why they do it, and across the board, almost everybody that I'm connected with does it for one of the reasons, and that's that we get a chance to do things that involve children.
Yep.
Especially charities for children.
So
why is it your time?
For my crew, we haven't had too many opportunities to do any charities. We've done small things to help out, for small benefits that were absolutely zero profit. So anyone who was involved, we weren't like cutthroating someone for a gig or anything. But seeing the reaction on kids' faces when their face lights up and they're like, oh, a pirate!
Oh,
and
yeah.
We'll happily stop, take photos with them, and it makes their day, and that helps out a lot. And like the city of South Haven, I might refer to it a lot. We got involved in South Haven back in 2018, because our crew, we do monthly meetings, so we rotate around whose turn it is, and we picked the brew pub in South Haven. We're sitting in, a waitress noticed us, and we get dressed up when we go out for our meetings. And she comes, oh, hey, you guys are from around? He's like, oh, we're around. And, well, she tells she's a mermaid, and she's trying to put on an event for the 2018 year. No, this is winter of 2017. So we say, okay, here's my contact information. Fast forward to South Haven Mermaid Mega Fest, where we end up setting a record of 411 mermaids out on the South Haven Pier. And there's pictures of me walking back and forth. I'm pushing down on my throat to amplify my voice, barking orders of directing mermaids and tourists that is filling this. And when a pirate barks an order like that and hundreds of people move at once, it's like, I have the power. But
and with that many mermaids at your command, what a 400 mermaids. Wow, that's a lot.
Oh yeah, we were meant to be in the Guinness Book of World Records, but they kind of wanted, hey, we want more money. We want more money to get this in here that we already paid well over $1,000 for all this paperwork. And by the time it got to that final step, another group beat our record, so they got it.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful because that one
Just
mermaid
like pirating, it's always about the money. Always about the money.
The one mermaid who reached out to us to help join us, she later actually joined our crew in 2019. So that helped bring more mermaids into the group. So when we show up to an event like the one we did in Michiana, Indiana, we had dry mermaids. So instead of them, being in water, we had them sitting up on the ground, interacting with the kids, and that's always fun when you see kids light up. Like, they don't know how to act sometimes when they see an actual mermaid in front of them. Some of them, oh, that's a fake mermaid. Other ones, oh, that's a mermaid, and it's so fun to see that.
Well, kids love mermaids and they love pirates. Historical pirates. It makes me laugh because, well, it just does. Because us pirates, modern day pirates, we just love kids and doing things for kids. In fact, the two charities we do the most work for here in St. Augustine are both children's charities, and it's just a lot of fun to be able to go out and do what you want to do and light up the eyes of children because they love pirates, they love mermaids, and it makes it all worthwhile. It truly does. And I know many of the pirates that are in our crews or in our working circles of crews, they do it because of the children. I know pirates down here. There's a pirate crew over near Tampa that does a reading program for children. I know that, and my brother's watching now. I know he's on there, Ransom Mayhem. He goes to schools over in the Panhandle and reads books to the kids. So working as taking the criminal character of a pirate and doing so much for children is so ironically comical. You just can't help but feel good about it.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things I think is so much different. Is it's so much easier for people to approach someone dressed like a pirate than if they were just in a suit or normal clothes. It's like, hey, you want to hear a story from a pirate? Hey, you want to hear a story from Joe?
Very true. I've been a magician for all my professionally since I was 16, being paid for it since I was 16. And I've used magic to teach classes or to teach safety or to teach gang awareness or whatever else. Those are the hooks that get the children or the audience to pay attention. The costumes we wear, and I don't often call them costumes, but the outfits, the garb, the costumes we wear, that's also the hook that initially gets the attention that you need from the audience. And once you've got them within the first 30 seconds or so, then it's an easy pull. So being a pirate is a good thing. Gets a lot of attention.
Oh,
so,
it absolutely does.
What's the furthest you've gone to do any event? And then we're going to talk about you coming down here because you're coming on a visit to St. Augustine soon.
So the furthest event that we did, where we actually set up and we vended, was about 3 hours away in Grand Haven, Michigan. So if this was the hand, I'm down here. It was way up here. But we have traveled as a group in garb. We went all the way up to Mackinac Island, which is up here in the water. And because that one is about a 5-hour trip for our group.
Now there's a tall ship. There's a tall ship event that goes on in the Great Lakes up there. Have you participated in that?
Not yet. Unfortunately, we usually have something else going on at the same time.
I believe it's in the summertime.
Correct.
Yes.
It happens in the Bay Area, so kind of where the thumb is.
Right.
It wraps around there, and it goes through the canal that goes between that and Canada.
Our good friend Tom Mason and the at that festival. And he'll be at the Panama City Beach Festival, Pirates of the High Seas, in October. And I just talked to him this morning about possibly coming to St. Augustine in January for Old City Pirate Festival, but he may have a conflict, so we'll see what happens. But yes, it's very strange that all these adults are playing dress up.
Well,
but for the most part, a lot of them are playing dress up and doing good with their activities within their crew. There's a good one of the Powder Monkey with a couple of little pirates. Mr. Longwood, where was that at? Was that at Edgewater last year?
Yes.
That was Edgewater. Very good. And we'll be going back on that one. Edgewater was a lot of fun. Was it the Kiwanis Club that hired us to do that? I think it was the Kiwanis Club.
I think so.
And we do it for a fee because we bring 5 or 6 tents and a traveling museum, the podcast, the Powder Monkey, a few extra musicians, pirate games, a ship store, and we set up this encampment and have a good time with everybody. And they pay us a fee, but we make a little extra by doing the other things too. And a good percentage of the money goes into our charity account because most of our charity work happens in the holidays where we try to help families that need help. And one of our major charities, and this might be a suggestion for you because this is a really big thing and this might really be a good direction for you. Seek out foster children programs. We're working with the Seawolf Privateers down in Flagler County. They do foster work, and we work with St. Augustine Youth Services, which is an organization that helps children that have been removed from homes. Some of those children, their stories are sad, but the opportunity to really do stuff for them, very good, Davey, very good. The opportunity to do stuff for children that are having hard times in their life, they become so appreciative, and they are, in some cases, and I'm going to say this wrong, but I'll say it anyway. In some cases, they're empty vessels that haven't had enough love put in them, and they just want to have some fun. Seek out something like that for your crew, because I'm sure Michigan has that in some way, shape, or form, and it's always a good thing to link up with somebody like that, an organization, because then it'll give you many more outlets, and it'll make the crew members that you have. You say you have 50 members, but you got 10 active. I guarantee you, if you pick a good charity, if you pick a good charity and you start doing stuff on a regular basis, you'll have more active members.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I gotta tell people, like, where I'm at, I wear a lot of hats because I'm part of a motorcycle group. We're not MC or 1%er type thing, but we ride and we do a lot of benefits because we help out a lot of the food banks, and usually around Christmas we do adopted a family. So our group, we raise a lot of money through that as well. So I know some of those channels. And
well, it's always a good thing to use our characters, as scurvy and scallywaggish as we are, to do things for the children. And our Powder Monkey gets a lot of attention from the children for sure, and he has a good time also. Well, it's good to have been able to talk to you here. We've reached a point in the show where I have to do a few of the show things of responsibility.
Of
but please, we're going to let you stay on with the show with us. If you have comments, please, we want you to do though, and comment on what's going on. And even if we go over the hour, which we've been doing a lot lately, haven't we there, Mr. Hellfire? Hi. Don't talk too loud. People might say something about your microphone. So,
I'm having to keep my mic muted because I have the TV too loud right now.
What's that?
I'm having to keep my mic muted because my parents have their TV really loud.
Very good. So we always do This Week in History. It's always something that Mr. Longwood has put together for each week. So I think this is a perfect time to do that, This Week in History. If you would like, Mr. Davey, pop that up there for us.
Hi.
very interesting, and sometimes even I learn something from that, as I hope everybody else will. And because of this past happenings this week with the passing of Queen Elizabeth, oftentimes I would say some things in some of my tours about how Queen Elizabeth is the longest running monarch in the history of the world, and I have been corrected myself actually, because I was doing some looking and some history, and I found something that gave me a better insight on the monarchs of the world in our history. Ladies and gentlemen, Queen Elizabeth II was only the second longest running monarch in the history of the world. Louis XIV was the longest. He lasted 72 years and 110 days, 1643 to 1715. Queen Elizabeth was 70 years, 214 days, 1952 to 2022. Third was Rama IX from Thailand. He actually was 70 years and 126 days. And Johann II, Liechtenstein, 1858 to 1929, 70 years and 91 days. That's the top 4 longest running monarchs in the history of the world. And I actually found it to be interesting, and I hope you do too, because we want to share history with you. And as I find pieces of history, or I learn of things that maybe I'm not quite up on, I will go and read about it, and I will then share it with you. If you go to Wikipedia and do the list of the longest running monarchs, they will list out for you, I just didn't want to do the whole list, they will list out for you the top 25 longest running monarchs. And number 25 was James VI of Scotland, 1567 to 1625, and he was 57 years and 246 days, almost 58 years. So if you want to be a monarch, you have to be prepared to give up 58 to 70 years of your life. That's what it boils down to, ladies and gentlemen. To be a monarch, a ruler of a country, 58 years plus. Don't think it's ever going to happen for me. Not at my age. But I thought it was interesting and wanted to share that with our listeners. So, Mr. Longwood, we've done all that. Should we do a last-minute check of all of our messages?
Oh, wait a minute. What about...
Oh, on the horizon. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look right there, September 12th is Captain Zachary Harker from the Silver Moon crew. He's sitting with us tonight. Tomorrow night is Tuesday, National Defy Superstition Day. So we're having a special event at 8 o'clock tomorrow night to talk about superstitions with our good friend and author and curator of the Pirate Museum, Matt Frick. And then on September 19th, which is just 1 week away, it is the first anniversary of the Captain's Quarters podcast. It is the birthday of our good friend Scarlett Deerhart, and it is the anniversary of Talk Like a Pirate Day. So we'll be having a grand party here in the Captain's Quarters studio, right here in Captain's Mayhem's wonderful pirate room and bar. We'll also be doing on September 26th, Captain Mayhem from Panama City Beach, the Pirates of the White Sands, Ransom Mayhem. On October 3rd, our good friend, hopefully, from Utah, she'll be in the area. She's part of the Utah Pirates and been a very big supporter of us, Mandy Jo Brown, and she hopefully will be right here in studio with us, but maybe remote. We'll have to see how it works. And then October 10th, a return from the Pirates of the High Seas. On that Monday night, we'll talk about the Pirates of the High Seas. Maybe we can get Ransom Mayhem back on the computer and a link to talk about how good an event it was. October 17th, our good friend Andy Nance, author, actor, voice, and he's written and just put out his next book. It just went to press and he's gotten copies of it now. It's a children's Halloween horror story book. So we want to bring him on and talk about that. October 24th, our good friend Mo from Vegas Pirates and his Halloween Spectacular. And of course on October 31st, special on-location surprise. I don't know what that's going to be because I don't even know what it's going to be. It may be just us sitting here in Halloween costume and doing a Halloween party right here in the Captain's Quarters studio. So as you see, we've got a busy next couple of weeks coming up. and we hope that you will join us, ladies and gentlemen. It is open to have everybody be a part of it, and if you're a captain of a crew or even the member of a crew and you want to brag about it and you want to get on board our show, we're very open for it. For example, next Monday, Talk Like a Pirate Day, we will have a Lincoln pirate from California coming in to say hello. We may have a pirate from Nashville, Tennessee coming in to say hello. Maybe we'll bring another one in from Panama City Beach to say hello. Maybe even one from Michigan, and maybe even one from Quebec, Canada. There's some hints for you, ladies and gentlemen, on the pirates that we might have celebrating Talk Like a Pirate Day at the same time all over the United States of America, or should I say, since Quebec is included, all over the North American continent. That's what we're planning for next Monday night. We'll probably do an extended show. I also have talked to one of our good crew members who does not live in this area, and my crew doesn't even know this yet, but I talked to our good, loyal crew member, Sadie Nichols, who is now living in Spain right now, and if she can work it out, she's going to be on the show next Monday night with us. The time difference is that 8 o'clock here is 2 o'clock in the morning there. So, and she has a little baby, but maybe we can get the baby on board and put her in some pirate clothes also. So ladies and gentlemen, next Monday night is looking to shape up like a good fun night, and we'll probably run over the hour. In fact, I'm planning it to be an 8 to 10 o'clock podcast show in honor of Talk Like a Pirate Day. It'll be a long event. It'll be a lot of fun. I hope you'll join us. On that note there, Mr. Davey, I think we could do a last-minute check of the messages.
Sure.
So I'm scrolling back to see what we have here. If I miss something, somebody pop it in there for me and let me see. Let's see. Welcome aboard, Ken Smith. Melody Mellow Lily, we appreciate you being here. A new watcher and part of the Captain Grey Wolf there, his crew. We want you to be a part of us. Let's see. There's Ransom Mayhem from Panama City Beach. Jonathan Miller. A couple of Facebook users. Ken Smith. You say you can't hear me. I will turn your hearing aid up. Christy Thomas. Hey, Christy, can we fix Captain's sound? I can hear myself just fine. I can hear it just fine. You guys have volumes on your machines. Use them. Panama City Beach Pirate Festival was my first encounter with entertainment piracy. A Facebook user, not sure who that is. There's Scarlett Deerhart. There's Captain Smoo. Thank you very much for the good words you used on your podcast and your radio show last night, Captain Smoo. We appreciate that. I'm very honored and touched, even though I couldn't understand most of the language. Let's see. Thank you, Miss Kara, for defending me here. She could hear me, but Dell couldn't. Volume at 30, and I can hear him now. But Mr. Longwood blows me away from my chair. Oh, well. Technology. I hate it. Very good. Let's see who else is on there. Anything else that we have? Cheyenne Plant. That would be one of your crew members there, mate,
A close friend. She's from Massachusetts, actually.
Very good. Well, I hope that she will stay on. I sent a message to Mr. Longwood today, and I didn't get an answer back, so I'm going to put him on the spot. Mr. Longwood, what do you think about the idea that I sent you about a map of the world with pin spots for everybody we have watching us?
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Just have to figure out how to do it.
We're going to figure out how to do some kind of a map and put pinpoints on it, whether we do it as a real map or a virtual map. We're going to try to do something to show where all the people are that are watching us. So, Mr. Douglas Harper, we thank you for watching. I know you watch because of your son, but I hope that you'll tune in on a regular basis and watch us more often. You never know what we might pop up here. Ransom Mayhem says hello to Captain Timberwolf. Let's see who else we have here. I enjoy going back and looking for all these. Lots of cool activities, too, for mermaids and having a chance to learn how to swim more professionally from well-known mermaids. Does Melody do mermaid?
She does now. She was actually a certified lifeguard, or like the higher level lifeguard. So she already had water experience. She was doing lifeguarding for mermaid gatherings, and she had the opportunity to get into a tail, and she loved it.
Very good. Well, she should come down to Florida and be a mermaid. We have all kinds of mermaids down here And we're going to be putting up a mermaid grotto in the Old City Pirate Fest too, so we'll hope that if you come down this way, we can have more mermaids there. Ken Smith put something out that I saw just now. Tall Ship Fest on the lakes happens every 3 years. Your crew, Mr. Smith, was the crowd entertainment in 2016. So they did one in 2019, and they just did one in 2022. And that's the one that I know, 2022, I believe Tom Mason was at. He might have been at the 19 one also. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, Mr. Smith. I'd appreciate that. I have no problems with being corrected when we're talking about all of our crew members and friends doing work. Jonathan Miller, Davey, that has to be a great background photo. He must be talking about you and the children there. That must have been a good one. Very good. Very good. That person that contacted, we'll try to figure out who it is. They were talking to us, Ransom, through our Facebook page, so we can't see their name right away, but I believe we have a way to find out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for being a part of our show tonight. It is time to say those proper thank yous to everybody. Let's see. I'm looking at that. Okay. We'll work on that a little bit more, ladies and gentlemen, trying to figure out the sound. I think I figured out what it might be because it's now better, I'm sure. But let's talk about our sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, Ancient City Sirens. I love working with those girls. Gina and I have had a great working relationship now for 15 years. That's longer than I've had a working relationship with any of the other pirate crews and or pirates in the area. Except maybe my good friend Reuben Morgan down in Daytona. Him and I have worked together on many events for the past 15 years also. Dick's Wings, Bar and Grill. Paper and Strings, our good friends Christy and Adam over in the Tampa area. Shiver Me Pictures, that would be old Scarlett Deerhart herself. Colonial Oak Music Park. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum. We're working on a few things to do with them in the new year. It's always good to have them as sponsors. We also have crew support, ladies and gentlemen. The crew support comes from W. Mayhem Productions, the St. Augustine Swashbucklers, of course, Captain William Mayhem, the Powder Monkey, and the crew of the podcast, our cartoon selves, Captain Mayhem, Hellfire, and Longwood. And there it is. Now, that's our charities, ladies and gentlemen. St. Augustine Youth Services, Investing in Kids, the Humane Society, and then the other one is our Toys for Pits, Pits standing for Pirates in Training. I always like to make sure I express that to everybody. Toys for Pits. We are not Toys for Tots. So many organizations do Toys for Tots, and they are not Toys for Tots, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Marine Corps designation for their nationwide toy drive. And many people kind of tack on to that. If you are not attached to the Marine Corps toy drive properly, you are not Toys for Tots. So we came up with Toys for Pits, Pirates in Training. And we have given some of our toys to the Marines. But we like to make sure that the St. Augustine Swashbucklers keeps all that we raise, toys and money, locally. That's why we do Toys for Pits. It's a good thing. Let's see. Patreon, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to go on to Patreon and be a part of our show by being a Patreon crew member, we have 2 levels of Patreon membership. Powder Monkey, which is $1 a month, or First Mate, which is $5 a month. And as you can see, we have 8 Patreon members. Subscribers, we've gone to 227. Oh, and by the way, on Patreon, that's 8. Our guest last week, Sketchy Guy, said that the minute we reach 10, we can put all 10 names from our Patreon supporters in a hat and pull one name out, and he will do a cartoon drawing of them for free as a gift. But we have to reach 10 Patreon supporters. So, ladies and gentlemen, kick it in. Time to join. And I think we've reached the end. Another good show, by the way.
And we went over an hour, Captain.
What's that?
We went over the hour.
We did go over the hour. That's because we had such a fine guest to talk to us. And when it's just me, it's not such a fine show. But when we have guests, they talk, and I let them talk, and we ask good questions, and we have a good time. So, before we sign off, Captain Timber Grey Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you very much for being on the show. But if you'd like to pass on some words of wisdom to our listeners and or to your crew, just remember you are being recorded, and these words will be around in posterity forever. But if you have anything you'd like to say in closing, we always like to give our guest a chance to say something.
I like to say, no matter where you start, and you can't compare yourself to what someone already has, because they might have been doing it for years, or they had the finances to do it. So you always know, you put in what you get out. It might be a lot of hard work, but as long as you set a goal and you keep your sights on it, you'll eventually get to it.
Aye, fine words. I would add to this, keep in mind grand loyalty to the cause and respect to everyone. Grand words it is. Thank you, Captain Graywolf, for being a part of our show tonight. I believe, since we've reached our point, the crew has something to say so we can sign off.
Actually,
Part of
one
the
more
pod.
thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Part of the crew.
Always, to each and every one of you, we love you, we honor you, and thanks for being a part of our show for tonight. Be watching tomorrow night, Tuesday, September 13th, our special episode on superstitions, and of course, September 19th, guess what? International Talk Like a Pirate Day. I'm not going to tell you the special guests we've got, but if you were paying attention, the clues were there. Just like a fine treasure hunt. Ladies and gentlemen, we're signing off. Cheers to you. Aye.